Welcome back to the Maya Toolbelt. We're still working on our chandelier piece here. Now, because all these jewels are just kind of hanging in midair right now, I am going to actually create the wire that's between all the jewels. So I have this curve still, so I'm going to use it to create the wire. So before I do that, I'm going to go to Create, NURBS Primitive Circle. You see here I have this circle down here. I'm going to scale it down really low. And with the circle still selected, I'm going to shift select my curve. Okay, so I have my circle selected first, my curve selected second, and I'm going to do another extrude under surfaces, extrude. So obviously my circle is still way too big. So let's select my circle down here. I'm going to turn off surface selection so I can just select the curve. See that? Just by hitting this button here, I'm turning off my selection ability to choose geometry. So I can just quickly grab that curve circle and scale it down. I want it to be pretty thin. So again, it's like a wire. So it's going to be barely noticeable, but I think it would be more noticeable if it wasn't there, if these things were really just floating there. So we're going to have that little wire kind of going through here. So now with my wire thickness being the way I want, I turn surface selection back on, select my wire, go to NURBS Tessellate, and don't want this to be quite so dense through here. So I want my U number to be down something like this. And then the curvature of it, let's increase that up to about, let's see, looks like about 5 should do it. Okay, so now that I have this, I can duplicate it, Control D, and I can rotate it. I believe it was 15 degrees, and then Shift D to get the rest of them. So now I have my wires for all those jewels being strung up through there. And we'll do something similar here. If I go to Display, Show, Geometry, NURBS Surfaces, I still have this sphere down here, and you can see that I'm not quite still the same shape as the sphere, but I can adjust the sphere shape be about like this, and then I can hide everything else for a second, choose an isoparm, go to curves, duplicate surface curve, delete the history, so I can now delete this NURBS sphere. So now that we have this curve, I can again hide my surface selection, grab my circle again, and shift select this curve, surfaces, extrude again, go back to our NURBS Tessellate, and we want to change our U number down to 1 again, and the V number seems fine, about 3. And because my curve is a little off, I can adjust the control vertices to kind of move that wire through here. I'm using the arrow keys to move up and down the curves control vertices, and that looks about right. And now once I have this, I can turn the surfaces back on, grab my wire here, delete history, Control D to duplicate this one now, and move this one over here. It looks like about 9 degrees or so. There we go. So now all of those have a wire for them as well. So now it won't look like they're all just floating in midair. Okay. We have a nice density of detail here, I think. So looking back at the picture, it does look like this center pole extends all the way up. So I'm going to grab these verts and pull it all the way up. So it's going to go right through the middle of everything, which makes sense. It'll hold it all together. And up here at the top, we're going to make another ring like we have at the bottom. And I think we can just probably just copy this one. So I'll duplicate this one, pull it up here, and we'll need to scale it up. So something like this. And at the top of this, according to the picture anyway, the this kind of comes out in almost like a crown fashion. So I might do another. Well, let's see what it looks like first. Let's try this. I'm going to grab every third face. Not every other face, but every third face. Let's just see what that looks like. A lot of times when modeling these things, it's kind of trial. Okay, so we don't have quite enough. I was going to say trial and error, which we errored here, looks like. So let's do every other face instead. Okay. And with every other face selected like this, we can go to Edit Mesh, Extrude. Okay. And these faces will extrude again. Scale them up. And you'll notice I'm doing them all at the same time. Alright, so we can scale this in. Extrude again. So we can get, just something like this. Doesn't have to be exactly right, just some kind of detail that was up there. And looking at the reference, I didn't quite go out far enough, so I'm going to go to Deform, Lattice, adjust this so we can kind of extend this out some. Actually, let's do one division in the T like this, so we can grab these top four, kind of pull them out like this. Okay, then we can delete history to get rid of the lattice. And then you can go through here and I'm going to select the faces along the top like that. Edit Mesh, Bevel, just to kind of bevel these. So we have that at the top of our chandelier. Let's go back to the black. Everything seems to stand out better with the black right now with the untextured look that we have so far. Alright, so our center rod continues up beyond this. Let me look at the reference here. Let's see, how far up does it go? It probably goes up to the ceiling, which these chandeliers, yeah, it goes all the way up to the ceiling. So I'm just going to pull this up, pretty far, like that. And then when it comes to the reference, again, just looking at the picture, they have more of these kind of prism shapes hanging off of this bit. So actually, I think this crown actually extends out further like this. And let's go ahead and make it a little taller. Let's go ahead and do something like this. Okay, and then these prism shapes, let's grab one of these, duplicate it. We're going to move it up here to reuse up here. Now up here the prism is larger and longer, so increase the length. modify center pivot, and we can scale it up slightly. And it's going to be hanging off of here like this. Okay. Now the pivot point we do want back at the origin. We're going to hit just group it for now, which puts the pivot at the origin. And then I can duplicate it and rotate it over here. And let's go about 10 degrees, looks like. And we can just shift D for the rest of them all the way around. Like so. So now we have that. And once we have all this reflective, glassy materials and all these things, I think it's gonna look pretty neat when it's all done. I keep saying that, but I just keep feeling it. Alright, and now more than likely, I can't really see it in the reference, but more than likely there's some cross beams going through here that kind of hold all this stuff up. So I'm going to just grab this beam here, duplicate it, and we're going to reuse it up here just to give us some support up here. I'm going to scale it just so it kind of fits through here. And those wires, although really no one's going to see this at all, but we'll just make it so the wires are going into that beam. And duplicate this, and I'll just make, well, let's go ahead and do like this. So kind of a spoke type thing. But again, we're going to see it like this far away, so we don't really need to go into much more detail when it comes to how this thing is constructed. So yeah, all these little wires are going into nothing right now, but when it comes to the final shot that we're going to have, we're not really worrying about that right now. Alright, so I'm going to open the outliner here, and I want to do just a little bit of cleanup. I've already done some of it. We can save all these groups. I'm going to shift select all these groups, go to edit, ungroup, okay, and just kind of scroll through my outliner. I have a lot of things that have not been named, which is not really how you're supposed to do things, but that's okay. Alright, so now all my pieces are ungrouped. I'm going to grab everything about this chandelier and Control G to group it now. So I have one group for the whole chandelier now. And rename that group chandelier, we'll call it 2. I'll make a new layer down here. Double click and rename this one also. Right, save. Okay. So let's unhide my door and column. Let's select my chandelier group and move it over here. What's this? Let's go back. It looks like I need to delete history. So I'm going to grab everything within the chandelier 2 group, which is all those jewels and everything. Just going to grab it all. Shift select everything and delete history. Okay, so now when I move the group, I don't have any kind of double transforms happening, which is what was going on. Alright, now the chandelier, let's look back at the reference. I believe, yeah, so the chandeliers are all hanging where the alcoves kind of come to a point right here. That's where all the chandeliers are kind of coming from, these smaller ones anyway. They're all kind of positioned at these points. So I want to make sure I have the correct height above the ground and also scale. So don't forget, this is our door. So this is where people are walking in, and it is a little bit of oversized door, but it's like a 6-foot person is probably about this high. So this is probably too low to the ground. And so looking at my reference, I think my chandelier is a little too large. I'm going to scale it down, make it a little smaller. And we're going to move it up. So it's hanging, let's see, looks like it should be, when it comes to like its relation to the column, looks like it should be about like this. So that's about the right scale. and height from the floor. That's about right. So we'll move it up like this. So now this piece I can extend up to the rest of the ceiling up here, like that. Okay, let's unhide my first chandelier. So we have this piece, and then we have our top piece up here. So for the most part, we got a lot of it done. Just to kind of show you how it could work, let me grab all of these pieces. You can see them all here in the outliner. I'm going to group that now. Let's name this group wall with door, like that. And the pivot point for this, we can kind of put that, let's hide that ceiling piece. We can put this pivot point right there at the end of here. So now I'm going to duplicate this, and we're going to snap that pivot. Let's change a different color background so I can see a little better. It's going to snap to it right there. Okay, so now Shift D, and we'll snap the next one like that. Shift D, so now you can see we get our row of doors and columns. So let's just make a few in a row like that. We can grab our little chandelier, Control D to duplicate it, and we're going to place it again where these arches meet at the tip here. So Shift D to duplicate it. Then we have our big chandelier. Duplicate it, and for every 3 small chandeliers is like a big one. So we'll kind of put it around here, like so. So I'm going to grab all of these wall pieces, press up to select their groups, Control D to duplicate all of them, Control G to group the whole thing, modify center pivot, and I'm going to rotate it in 180 degrees, like that. Move it over here. We can unhide our ceiling piece, just get some kind of guide here. Now this isn't done by any means, but you can kind of see how it's coming together. So this we can move over here and kind of scale out like this. And then all of our little chandeliers, we'll grab all those, and it's slowing down my machine a little bit now. And press up and grab all the groups. I'm going to save this real quick because it's really chugging on my machine right now. Let's save scene as, and I'm just going to call this like a room 01. So now that I have all my little small chandeliers selected, I'm going to duplicate them all. Now we'll see if Maya can handle it. Alright. Go to wireframe, see if that helps a little bit. I'm going to move all of these so that they're on the opposite side. And because my duplicate walls are not exactly lined up, I'm going to fix that.